Hi, I'm John DeBella from Classic Rock 102.9 MGK, here once again for PhillyPetInfo.com, and here once again with Jim Crosby. You know, we should start off by talking about really your background, because you mentioned in our last series that you were a police officer.
Right.
But you're here to talk about dogs and dog biting.
Right.
So let's put it all together for folks before we get into, we'll get into this.
Yeah, well, I did a career of 23 years with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office in Jacksonville, Florida. And towards the end of that, I got into dog training, and when I retired, I went further, and my educational background is in psychology. And of course, being a policeman, you're a street psychologist all the time. And when I got into training, I wound up learning more and more about specifically dog behavior. Then we flash forward slightly after I've been training for several years, and I went to New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina, and wound up in the city of New Orleans on the deck there for over a month. And this was an emergency shelter, and these dogs were coming in horribly traumatized. So there had been a supposed expert came through right before me and said, all these dogs have to be killed. Well, I wasn't comfortable with that. The 2,000 dogs that we took into my shelter in the time I was there, I had 2 put down, because they were truly the Ted Bundys of dogdom. They were nuts. Nothing we could do with them. Everything else we were able to decompress and rehabilitate. So add that to my background as a policeman, because everybody says, oh, cops want to carry guns and drive fast. No, we're cops for one reason. We're nosy. We want to stick our noses into everybody else's business. We want to know what happened, when it happened, why it happened, and can I put somebody in jail while I'm doing it? I became aware of the more and more aware of serious attacks and actually the rare fatalities. So I kind of asked myself, why? I mean, dogs live in our houses 24/7. They sleep on our beds. They curl up with our kids. What happens to make a relationship go so bad that a dog kills a human? And nobody had ever asked the question. There'd been one study that they crunched, and I've talked to the primary authors, and all they did was go through reports and produced it for the Centers for Disease Control about dog bites, but nobody had ever gone and laid hands on these dogs and looked at the crime scenes and brought the analysis of law enforcement and the analysis of behavior together. And so I wound up in this very bizarre niche that I've now done more of these attacks than anybody in the world. I have handled, after they have killed humans, more dogs that have killed other humans first, to try and find out what made this, again, the relationship go so bad that the dog killed a human. I mean, as social individuals evolving through the years, we didn't take lions and tigers into our bedrooms. We didn't bring bears into the living room. We chose dogs. And so that long-standing relationship goes so deep. I mean, some archaeologists say anywhere between 60 and 100,000 years. Longer than we've really been identifiable people in some ways. We've been connected with these dogs on a very personal level. So that's why I stuck my nose and said, I want to know what's happening. I'm nosy. And it's just kind of gone from there.
But nowadays, I'm hearing, and I'm not alone, everybody's hearing, more and more stories about crime scenes, police coming into situations and shooting dogs, right? Now, is there some sort of measure that can be put in between here? A dog comes running up at a cop in full attack mode. Okay, I understand it. The guy's programmed that way. But there's a lot of dog shooting being done by officers of law.
Yeah, and it's really sad, and it's really avoidable. I do some training with police departments on avoiding the use of deadly force with dogs. And for instance, I was contacted on a case fairly recently. The officer had retreated from the yard, gotten on his hood, was on the roof of his car, and the dog was actively trying to bite him. Well, yeah, shoot it. You're at risk here. There's no question of danger, and no, I'm not going to sit there and try and testify against this guy. Oh, he should have done... No. I've been in those situations. In my entire career, I never had to shoot a dog. Can't say that about people, but then the people had it coming. But there's a lot of room between hi puppy and bang, bang, bang. And as police officers, We have been trained for years and years and years on what's called the use of force continuum. Because as a police officer, you are only legally and morally, but legally, we'll keep the morals out of it, justified to use the minimum amount of force necessary to accomplish your mission. And so we've got a couple things going. You use minimum force. So if the dog's running at you and you go, no, stop, sit, and the dog stops and sits, you're done. You have successfully gotten the space you need so that now the owner can come over and grab his dog. If pushing the dog away with your foot or yelling at him doesn't work, the next thing that works as close to 100% as you can possibly say without absolutely guaranteeing forever is OC, pepper spray. The stuff the police carry is about 30 times stronger than what the mail carriers carry. I've been sprayed with it both in training and by my own officers because you're supposed, when you're fighting with a person, you're supposed to yell clear and then spray. They get the order backwards sometimes, and it was clear, oops, and now we're all, but so it's not, it doesn't do an injury long term. It's really uncomfortable. And you spray a dog, even a dog that's in a pretty good charge, in the face, and typically it stops and kind of and digs at its face a couple of times and rubs its face on the grass and says, excuse me, and walks over to the grass somewhere and just leaves you alone. It works great. It's not lethal. It's not only not lethal, it doesn't even, 45 minutes later the dog is fine. Probably thinks you taste bad, but he's fine. So there are plenty of strategies. Even before that though, like I said, you're allowed to use the minimum force for the mission. If your mission is to go to the door and hand somebody their driver's license back that they dropped and somebody was nice enough to give to you, or even worse, you're coming to the house to notify that, I'm sorry, but your kid has been murdered in a drive-by downtown, then there's no use of force necessary there. You get there and you have dispatch pick up the phone and ask the people to come out. Because you walk up to the house and you either see the dog barking and snarling and whatever, or you walk up and there's a beware of dog sign, or there's a chain with nothing hooked on the end, or a bowl. Police-wise, we call it situational awareness. Pull your head out of your butt and look around. Pay attention. Look for cues, and if you're on a low-level mission, then take the time, get on your loudspeaker and say, hello, 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 this is the police, could you please come out? You're not in trouble, but I need to talk to you. Lots of things you can do. Now, again, I don't expect a SWAT team that's hitting a terrorist cell with grenades and fully automatic weapons and rockets to worry about dealing with Fifi at the door. Just go in and shoot everybody and we'll figure it out later. That's the old cop in me, you know. We'll let somebody else sort it out. But there's a lot of real estate between 0 and 100, and the guys really do have the tools, and they have the knowledge as it applies to people. They just don't realize that they can and really should apply the same things to people's pets. Because when you shoot, if you're a law enforcement officer, when you shoot someone's dog, you have deprived them of their property without due process. You may have violated the Fourth Amendment. And it's not they're going to sue you personally for $5,000 and you're going to have to work extra jobs for the next 2 years to pay for it. It's they're going to sue your department and you for a constitutional violation, and the cap limits in the states blow off at that point. And you may not be looking at $5 grand, and you may be looking at $5 million.
He is Jim Crosby, and I am John DeBella, and this is PhillyPetInfo.com, and we've got more for you, so stay tuned.